Hey everyone, this is Mark from the Atlanta IT Service Help Desk showing you a quick video tutorial on how to archive your Outlook data file or PST file. Now the main purpose behind archiving is basically to ensure stability in your Outlook program. If you tend to keep a lot of old emails, your Outlook data file can become very large and that can cause sluggish performance, sometimes even errors in Outlook. So what archiving does is it will back up and store items in a location outside of the program so it doesn't have to load as much data every time you use Outlook. If you were to visit our webpage, AtlantaITService.com, and navigate to our Tips and News section, under Tech Tips, we've posted an article labeled Outlook Archive that lists step-by-step instructions on how to do exactly what we're going over in this video today, how to archive your Outlook PST file. Now, this is the 2003 version. We're going to be going over 2007 today. Let's go ahead and get started. Here we have open Outlook 2007, and within it a very large data file, which as you can see has emails that go as far back as 2005. Now the first thing we can do is to check to see how large our data file actually is. If we navigate over to our Mail Folders section, right click on our root of our PST file, scroll down and choose Properties. This will open the Properties window for our PST file, and what we're interested in is the folder size. Clicking here will display a breakdown of the individual folder sizes, but what we're interested here is in the total size. As you can see here, this is over 2 gigs, which is a really good indicator to let you know it might be time to archive our mail. We can go ahead and close out of here, hit OK, and head back to our Mail folder section. Highlight again the root of our PST file, and this is where we can begin the archiving process. In the Outlook toolbar, we can click on File, scroll down, and choose the Archive option. This, of course, will open our Archive Options window. And from here, we have the option to select exactly which folders or files we want to archive. By expanding our root, we can select individual folders, either just archive our inbox, deleted items, but for the sake of this tutorial, we're going to archive our entire PST file. So we want to make sure that the root or your email address is highlighted before we proceed. Next, we decide how far back to archive our Outlook messages. By clicking the drop-down arrow, you can actually choose a date on this calendar. So what happens is every item in your Outlook older than the date you choose will be cleared out and backed up to a Outlook data file stored outside of Outlook. By default, Outlook gives you about 3 months to back, but since this is a particularly large PST file, we're going to go back even further, maybe even in this case May 1st, 2009. Of course, you can type in whatever date you want if you don't want to use the calendar. You can leave the next option checked or unchecked. Of course, if you have any items marked Do Not Archive, they won't be included along with this archive. And pressing on, we now choose where the actual archive file is going to be saved. Now, by default, Outlook provides you with a very long file path or location of where it saves the archive file. This actually doesn't come in very handy when you need to retrieve older messages later on, so we always recommend saving it in a easier to find location. You can do so by clicking Browse, and again telling Outlook to save our archive file to a easier to find location, such as your Documents or My Documents folder. And if you don't already have a folder for email, you can right click on the empty space and create a new folder made for just storing our archives. We'll just name this one Archived Mail. And we can go ahead and open up that new folder just to make sure we're in the right place. And now we can move on to naming our archive. Now I like to name this file something cohesive to the date we chose earlier, which is a great way to stay organized if you have several archives. And that date again was, I believe, May 2009. We can go ahead and hit OK, and before proceeding from here, you want to make sure all your settings are correct. It's never a bad idea to double check, because once we hit OK, Outlook will begin to archive your files. Everything looks okay, so let's go ahead and begin. You'll notice to the left, Outlook will spit out your archive folder along with the other open data files. And depending on how large your file was, this can take some time to complete. You can check the status by clicking on the inbox and noticing that one by one, every single file is being copied to our new Outlook archive file. It's best to let Outlook complete archiving before you start using the program, so let's just let this do its thing. And when archiving is done, you'll notice on the left that your archive folder is a mirror of everything, all the contents that were in all of your folders. The only difference is these are just items that are older than the date we chose earlier. So in this case, these are all messages older than May 2009. Now, what we wanted to accomplish by archiving was to ensure that Outlook doesn't have to load all these older messages every time we launch the program. So we want to go ahead and just close our archive folder. And we do that by highlighting the heading or the root of our archive folders, giving it a right click, and scrolling down to the Close Archive Folders option. And after that's closed, we can relaunch the program, and Outlook should now operate a lot smoother, a lot more streamlined, since it doesn't have to load all that data we just archived. Now your current data file is still intact, containing all your folders, including your inbox, with all messages, of course, newer than the date we archived, in this case, newer than May 2009. Now, if you're ever finding yourself needing to retrieve an older archived item, what we need to do is just add that archive data file to our mail folders list. We go out to the Outlook toolbar and choose File, and scroll down to Data File Management. This will open up Outlook's Account Settings window, which contains a breakdown of all the Outlook data files associated with the program. And what we're looking here to do is add an Office Outlook Personal Folders file, or PST file. Click OK, and Outlook will then ask you which PST file you'd like to add. So we're going to point it to the directory or location where we just saved the archive we created. And I saved my archive under Documents, Archived Mail, and I named it May 2009. You can select that and hit OK. The next window that pops up allows you to give a display name to your Outlook PST. I like to name mine something, again, cohesive to the date, which is May 2009. You can choose anything you like, and when done, go ahead and hit OK, and close out of the Account Settings window. You should now see in your Mail Folders list that Outlook mounted your archive data file. And again, here you can access all of your folders and retrieve any items that you need, any old messages, any item older than the archive date. Now, when you're done accessing this old archive, you want to be sure that it's closed, just to ensure that Outlook again doesn't have to load all this data when it opens, which is the main purpose of archiving in the first place. So we can do that by highlighting the display name or the root of your PST file, right-clicking, and scrolling down to the Close option. If we were to now go back and check the file size of our current PST file by right-clicking on the data file root, choosing Properties, and again going to Folder Size, you'd notice that our 2 gig data file has now shrunk down to just about half a gig. And again, working with a much smaller data file in Outlook will ensure that it runs smooth, streamlined, and without errors. Now that's pretty much all there is to archiving your Outlook data file. Happy Outlooking, and thanks for watching.